This is the Anker F3800, and it is the largest portable power station I have ever used. This is a full-scale electric generator that'll handle any of your power needs, no matter where you're at. But to fully understand just how big this power station is, let me walk you up through some of the different batteries that Anker sells.
Okay, so let's start with a small battery bank like this one made by Anker. This lives inside of my backpack and gets so much usage that I actually picked up a second one. So both of these live in my backpack and get plenty of use throughout the day charging my gear. I love this little power bank for 3 reasons. One, it has a huge 24,000 milliamp hour battery. It can also output a maximum of 140 watts, and I love that it has a screen on the front so I can better understand how much energy I have left and how much power each port is using in terms of watts. Taking a step up from there, we've got Anker's portable power stations, which basically takes what that battery bank is and expands upon it, giving you a greater capacity so you can bring more energy with you. It gives you more output power to power and charge different devices, and it also gives you a larger port selection, and it even gives you AC outlets so that you can plug in pretty much anything that you want and get power while on the go. Now, Anker has a few different styles of these power stations to match the needs of their users. The biggest differing factor is the size, which means the biggest power stations can hold more energy, they can usually output more power, and they usually have a larger array of ports. The smaller power stations are really good for traveling though, so it all depends on your needs as to which one you go with.
What we're really here to talk about though is this portable power station right here, the Anker Solix F3800, and I feel like I can't even call it a portable power station. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this is a full-scale electric generator that has a capacity of 3840 watt hours and is expandable through extra battery packs if you need more storage. To really understand the use cases here, I think it's important to cover the specs and design of this power station. Whenever I review a big battery like this, I always say that there are 3 major components: the design and ports, the battery capacity, and the input and output power. So let's go through these and then we'll get into the use cases of owning a massive generator like this and how I've been using it. So obviously this thing is huge. For scale and is a bit of a comedic bit, comparing this thing to Anker's smaller battery banks is just not even feasible. Even putting it against one of their larger power stations, as we showed earlier, just doesn't compute. This F3800 is in a class of its own. Even compared to me, this power station comes up just above my knees and I stand at about 5'9", so this is a fairly large unit, but what's good is it's still maneuverable. You have these top handles that allow you to kind of push it around and move it. You've got wheels down there as well, so it kind of rolls around like a suitcase. You've even got a pop-up handle, so you can pop the handle up, you can kind of tip it back and move the power station around like this if you wanted to, or again, on all 4 wheels, move it around. Here's the tricky part though, is trying to travel with this thing. Of course, it's a portable power station, so you can bring it anywhere you'd like, and trying to get it into your trunk can be a little bit difficult. Now, you do have this top handle, and there's actually a bottom handle down here as well, so you could flip it over. You could lay it down like this, grab the handle from down here, right here, and grab this handle, but it's 132 pounds, so you can get it in, use the wheels to help you push it in, and yeah, it does fit, but man, lugging this thing around definitely requires some muscles or even a 2-person team.
To touch more on the design, all the ports, buttons, and general I/O are towards the top half of the unit. Directly on the front is the main section that we'll be interacting with the most. Working from left to right, we have a car socket and a button to toggle power, so this port doesn't just drain power when it's not being used. There are 3 USB-C ports that output a maximum of 100 watts per port, as well as 2 USB-A ports, which I really wish they would do away with by now. I pretty much never use anything that charges over USB-A. We also have this big screen right in the middle that shows us the information that we're accustomed to seeing, like the energy remaining as a percentage, the amount of power being drawn or added to the battery displayed in watts, the amount of time the battery can power, what's plugged in based on energy left and current usage, and some miscellaneous status icons to let you know what's happening. There's also a power button on the far right to turn the power station on and off. Pivoting over to the right side of the power station, we have some of the more power-hungry ports like the NEMA 1450 and L1430R AC outlets at the top, as well as an array of 6 traditional AC outlets here towards the bottom, so you can really plug in just about anything here. The final set of ports we have to cover are on the left side, which all deal with inputting power back into the battery. At the top is the home power port to provide power directly to your entire house if you have the hookup, an AC input port to charge right off of the wall, inputs for charging off of your car or solar, and a port to hook up expansion batteries. So the Solix F3800 has a full suite of ports that allows you to charge and power anything. No hubs required, no power strips, no converters, no grounding plugs needed. You can plug anything in here and receive power. Now, this leads me to the final two important elements of a power station, and that is the input and output power, as well as the overall capacity. We already mentioned that the battery on board is 3,840 watt hours, which is just a staggering number. That's nearly 4 kilowatt hours of portable power that more than satisfies my needs when I bring this beast out. What might be even more impressive though is the 6,000 watt output power, which means I can power any appliance, tool, or battery that I'd run into, whether it's a washing machine, an air conditioner, a set of power tools, or even an electric vehicle. You can plug in and know that this will provide the full power your device needs. In line with that output power, the input power is also pretty high, as it charges at a speedy 1,800 watts right from the wall, or up to 2,400 watts through a solar panel if you have the right setup and you can find the optimal amount of sunlight. Okay, so that was a lot of information to throw at you, but to briefly summarize, this power station does it all. It has a port selection interface with any appliance, device, or battery that you might have. It has a high enough output power to fully power any of those devices that you might plug in. It's got a high input power so that you can rapidly put energy right back in from the sun, and it has a huge capacity so it can run for a very long time. I mean, what more could you want a power station to do? Now, let's get into some of the use cases that I've found myself using this battery for, and unfortunately I feel like I'm just scratching the surface. So for me, I'm always looking for a great power station to bring with me when I'm out flying drones throughout the day. Smaller drones like my Mini 4 Pro and my Mavic 3 Pro can easily be charged by those power stations throughout the day to prolong my time in the air. So those are these smaller power stations I showed in the beginning. Where I start to run into trouble though is when I'm flying larger drones like the Inspire 3 or the Matrice 350. These larger drones have much bigger batteries, and they actually require 2 batteries to fly. And this is great because it improves your flight time, but it also improves redundancy. So if one battery fails, you still have the second battery to come home on and bring the drone back safely. The limiting factor with those smaller power stations is the capacity of the battery. If I'm cycling batteries with my Inspire 3 on a long shoot day or my M350 on a long inspection day, I can quickly kill off most power station batteries in the morning time, especially when I'm using 2 hubs at once, so I'm pulling power from 2 separate AC outlets. With the Anker F3800 though, I could be cycling batteries all day long, and it would take a lot of flights to fully deplete that battery. Just for number's sake, when I plug in the hub to charge my Inspire 3 batteries, the F3800 estimates that it can run for 7.5 hours while pulling 400 watts to charge 2 batteries in parallel, so 2 batteries equals 1 flight. On the other hand, when plugging the M350 batteries in, it estimates that it can charge for 4.6 hours while pulling nearly 700 watts. Again, the batteries charging in parallel, which are used for 1 flight. To give you a comparison of just how much energy those batteries need, with a much smaller battery like the Mavic 3 that pulls 65 watts to charge, it says that this battery, the power station, can provide 2.2 days worth of power. When I make videos on these power stations, I also like to show a chart for recent popular drones that help you understand how many extra flights or how many extra drone batteries can be charged from one full charge if you did nothing but use that power station for that specific drone. This chart really isn't that helpful though, as basically each of these drones would be able to be charged over 100 times. So basically, if you're buying this to charge up your drones, just know that you will be good for literally days worth of flying. Now, even though my primary use case for any sort of battery is to charge my drones while on the go, it's not the only use case for a power station like the F3800. In fact, as I mentioned, it only scratches the surface, as this power station, this electric generator, can literally power your entire home. Personally, I don't have a use for this because I live in an apartment building with an offsite generator that kicks in the event of a power outage, but I do want to share some of the marketing material that Anker has published that showcases the F3800 basically living in your garage, and in the event of a power outage, taking over for the grid to keep your lights, appliances, air conditioner, television, really anything that you might have in your house that's electronic running. You can even buy expansion batteries to get up to 50 kilowatt hours of extra power waiting for an outage to kick on and supply your entire home with energy. It also doesn't have to be a power outage. You can plug in solar panels on top of your home into these batteries, store energy, and pull from them daily for all of your energy needs. And believe me, 50 kilowatt hours is going to be enough for almost any family's needs. To me, this is one of the best use cases for this specific power station. This and probably owning an RV would also be another good use case, but those are two things that just don't apply to me. The reason I think that those are the best use cases is because it requires the least amount of lugging around. I mean, look, I would love to have this much power with me sitting in my trunk each and every single day as a just in case, but it just doesn't make sense to bring with me every morning and then bring back inside every night because it's heavy, it's big, it's bulky. So I'd rather bring something that's a little bit smaller on the daily to charge my batteries as I go. And for those days where I know I'm going to be on the road for days, I'm going to be flying drones all day, every day, then I turn to a power station like that. It's good to have for that regard. But again, it's not going to be a daily user because it's clunky. It's 130 pounds. Now, aside from drones, I do like running big lights off of this portable battery and almost using it as a central spot when I might be on a set or location filming to keep my batteries charged for my camera, my monitors, my microphones, really anything I might need. And I never worry because I feel like I have near infinite power with the Anker F3800. Also, I own a Tesla, and yes, as I mentioned, this thing can charge it pretty fast through the NEMA port on the side. It's not going to get me very far, but being able to bring this to, say, a campsite, set it up to charge my car and other devices while replenishing the battery from the sun would be a killer way to make sure I never run out of power for my car or my devices while I'm on the go. Now, I have to end this video with safety because when you have a battery of this size, that's portable, you can bring around with you, that outputs and inputs this type of power, safety is something that is very important. And you really want to make sure that when you're buying a power station in general, it's from a reputable company. I can give you personal experience. I've bought some cheapo battery banks before, and they have just started smoking when being used, when sitting on my desk, they've gotten too hot. And that's something you don't want to happen when you have a big battery like this. And luckily, Anker is one of the most reputable brands that you can find when it comes to portable power solutions. Now I'm going to make a list here. I'll put it up on the screen of all the safety features built into the Anker Solix F3800. There certainly is a long list there, and the warranty is great. So I really just want to make sure that safety is emphasized because when it comes to a battery like this, safety is key. You want to make sure that nothing happens when using it, and I feel safe using a battery like this from a company like Anker because of all these safety features built in. So this is by far the biggest and baddest power station that I have ever used. So big that I basically didn't even bring it into the studio here because I just knew it would be a pain to try and shoot with. And that's why we jumped around. That's why we were outside a little bit. And that's why we came back inside to also discuss some of the different specs and things that you need to know. But look, this is definitely one of the best power stations that you can buy, but it's not for everybody, right? Like if you're somebody like myself that really uses a power station more so for traveling, more so for charging things on the go, one of Anker's smaller power stations might be better for you. But again, there's going to be a use case for this in my future, definitely when using drones like the M350, when I'm going to be doing big inspection jobs, because I want to make sure that my batteries are charged at all times. And if I need the most power, I'm going to bring the F3800. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If this is something that's in your budget or in your future, let me know what you're going to be using this big battery for down in the comments below. And as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.